Hmm. Are you listening with your ears or your ego? Khalil Gibran said, "We speak when we cease to be at peace with our thoughts." And most of us agree that interrupting is rude, yet it still happens, and it happens a lot. So today you'll discover how and why your ego makes you interrupt or keeps you interrupting and from being a good listener or better listener, and then 3 course corrections for managing that and getting back to the quality of listener that makes people know, like, respect, and even enjoy being around you. I'm El Granell, the founder of Truespeak, an and intrapersonal communication expert for over 25 years. Now, don't get me wrong, on occasion, it's necessary to interrupt. Sometimes when people are talking, they haven't given you enough backstory. They've jumped right into their own thoughts, so they're speaking from their ego. And you need a little backstory to know where this is headed. So sometimes you do need to interrupt to get some backstory. And then the other thing is sometimes people are long-winded and you're on a time schedule and they're taking up time, they're giving too much backstory or whatever the situation might be. So it's important for you as a leader to take control of the time and say, okay, wait, hold on, I can see that this is going in a different direction, so we'll get back to this, or take time with me to chat about this later, or whatever seems appropriate way to handle the situation at that time. Trust me, people appreciate it when you take the control back from a long-winded speaker. All right, today we're talking more specifically about why your ego is causing you to interrupt. Okay, and in my experience, the top 3 are: number 1, the ego likes to hear itself talk. Number 2, the ego is afraid that you're going to forget what it wants you to say. It doesn't want you to forget, again, because it thinks it's so important, which is also number 3. It believes that nothing is more important or interesting than what the ego wants to share right now. Okay, so what can we do about it? Number 1, the ego likes to hear itself talk. So a way you can override this is to, when people are speaking, stay very engaged, make eye contact in your head, overspeak the ego, and repeat what the person is saying. So as you're hearing my words in your mind, you're going to be saying, so as I'm hearing my words. So you're going to overspeak the ego. Well, let me back up again from the beginning. Actually, why not start with telling the ego, I have an important conversation I'm engaging in right now. Please take a back seat and we'll get to everything you need in a moment. It's a good place to start, and then we'll see what happens, because it does take practice. Then the second thing is your ego is afraid that you will forget what it wants to say. And what I'd like you to hear right now is that if you forgot what you wanted to say, chances are it wasn't as important as you thought, or as your ego thought, or you would not have forgotten. Okay. And then the third one is when the ego thinks that there's nothing more important than what it has to say, then it makes other people they feel this. When someone interrupts a lot, the person feels unimportant. They feel stepped on, they feel walked over, and I hope we never want anybody to feel that way. So when the ego is leading to believe that nothing's more important, and last week I talked about being careful in part 1 of this listening that you don't interrupt with a story of yours that you think is interesting or more applicable. So simply tell your ego in your mind, shh, thanks for sharing, and we'll get back to this later. Okay, so begin by telling your ego, I have an important conversation. Please take a back seat. I've got this. And then the second thing is to make sure that you remember that there's nothing more important that you have to say. And there's no way you're going to forget if it was super important. So shush your ego, say, I promise we'll get back to this in a moment. All right? So this is part 2 of the lost art of listening. Go back and listen to part 1 and apply some of those things as well. I'd love to hear what your experiences are. And if you found this information helpful, then hop on my calendars and we can chat about it some more and how to solidify these actions into how you can become an amazing quality listener. If you know an I call him an interruptsaurus. If you know an interruptsaurus, Share this with them. If you haven't already, please subscribe. You'll get the notifications only if you want to. And share this with anybody that you believe could get the value that you got from it today. All right, so until next week, my friends, stay happy and healthy.